Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author Podcast.
Hello Achievers, and welcome to episode number 668, says my notes, because I definitely typed that wrong, of the Next Level Authors Podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author businesses. My name is Daniel Wilcox, and here with me every single week is...
Sacha fucking Black.
Sacha fucking Black. How are you, Sacha?
Well, I've been better, actually. Trying not to have a heart attack. I say that jokingly, really fucking mean it. Experiencing some elevated stress levels, and that has resulted in some chest pain. Should probably get checked out at some point. Literally, I just got through recording some of my Rebel Author podcast, and I was like laughing about the fact that I was experiencing chest pains, and I was like, it's all right, guys, this is how I cope with life. I just laugh.
Laughter is the best, cure, the best type of medicine, other than actual medicine. So
yeah, and in my defense, I have actually called the doctors, and they do think that I'm young and relatively healthy, and therefore it's probably just stress, but also might say something that I might need to chill the fuck out. But when you ask about my week, I will explain. Wait, is that what we're doing now? Are you asking me about my week?
I kind of said how are you, but also you can go into how was your week.
So this week I nearly had my Amazon account shut, or at least one of my books pulled, and all my pre-orders cancelled, which is the result, which is the chest pains are the result of this. So to explain, you all need to buy your own ISBNs. And if I hadn't have brought my own ISBNs, I would have not have had any evidence by Dan to prove that I own my books and my copyright. So what happened was that I uploaded through Ingram Spark, and they've changed their dashboard, and in their dashboard they have an imprint section. So who is it that you are publishing under? If you're trad, it'll be someone like HarperCollins or Bloomsbury or whatever. For me, for an indie, it's either going to be your own name, or it's going to be an imprint name that you make up. Mine is Atlas Black Publishing. Dan's is Devil's Rock Publishing. Is that right? Yeah. And,
I can't believe you have to question that.
I wasn't sure if it was Devil Rock Publishing or Devil's Rock Publishing.
Devils. There's more than one. Or does it belong to the devil?
Bitch, I'm the queen of devils. Anyway.
You're the queen of rebels?
I'm the queen of all darkness.
Okay.
So...
we both paused for a sip of coffee then for people listening to the podcast.
Sorry, everyone.
That was bad timing.
We all need. It was bad timing. It's fine. So in my Ingram account, it had defaulted to my name as opposed to my imprint. And so it got loaded up onto Amazon. And of course, I checked all the sales page, saw that the publisher was Sacha Black. And I was like, oh, no. So I changed it on my Ingram dashboard and thought nothing of it. But the paperbacks weren't going live in America. It was live in the UK. And I was like, there is something wrong. Anyway, a couple of days later, I get this email from Amazon that's like, bitch, you don't own the copyrights. Why? Who is this new publisher? There's a previous edition. You need to prove that you own the copyright to this book. And their language is really aggressive. So they're like, you need a contract, you need copyright proof, and not one that's pending. You need one that's secured. You need signed, authorized letters from publishers transferring rights, this, that, and the other. None of that shit is anything that a self-publisher is going to own, right? So I'm like, fuck. And so what I did was I submitted the things that I could think of. So I sent my editor's invoice and then the corresponding payment out of my bank account, which showed my business name, my name, and the editor. I sent emails from my designer, anything that had evidence of stuff coming to me and going out, with side characters on it. They rejected all of my evidence, at which point I started to seriously shit my pants, because they also put a time on this, so you only have 5 days to resolve it. 5 fucking days. So I had to drop everything.
We know that they're really quick at like responding to emails and phone calls and things.
I know, right? Well, and this is the thing, I'd already phoned them. I tried phoning them, but this department couldn't, they don't talk to each other, and the department that deals with it, copyright infringements, doesn't have a phone system, so you have to do it by email. And of course they take 24 hours to reply, so I didn't fucking sleep all week. And anyway, so what I did was I went into my Ingram account. So this is just in case anybody else experiences this. And if you click where it says like title processing or title active or whatever, it will give you the timestamped information of every change and step it's gone through. So I could highlight and circle metadata revision, which then corresponded with the Amazon time and date. Obviously it changed just after that on Amazon. And what I also did was I had to go to my Nielsen ISBN account, and Nielsen is specific to England. If you are in America, it might be Boca. In Canada, it's the library, I think, and different in different places. But I went into my Nielsen account, and my Nielsen account, all of the ISBNs are attributed to Atlas Black Publishing. So they could see that my ISBNs were already owned by the person who was publishing the book. And then in my account, so it has Atlas Black Publishing, but it also had my name, which was the original publisher, according to Amazon, Sacha Black. So they could see that Sacha Black was also Atlas Black Publishing. And then I had to circle, so I had to get all of this information onto one page with the bloody ISBN. And I tell you what, they would not have accepted, and they would have pulled my book down, and they would have removed and cancelled all my pre-orders. So if you guys don't own your own ISBNs, this is a reason for owning them, because this shit me up massively and has really reminded me how much I want to back away from Amazon. And to create more streams of income, do more things, direct traffic more to my website, and do direct sales and things like this, because it shit me up, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, of course it did. Like that genuine fear ahead of a brand new launch you've been working your ass off on, suddenly just be like, no, you can't have your book. Like I won't go too deeply into details because I don't think it's a place to like bash people, but I do dislike Ingram's dashboard quite a lot, and they don't help the situation by making things easy to access and use.
Yeah, well, they've now defaulted. I've said to them, you have to remove Sacha Black, and they're like, oh, we can't remove it, but we can set your default to Atlas Black Publishing. And I was like,
it's impossible to delete a line of data. My point.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have chest pains just talking about that.
On top of everything else.
How was your week?
Oh, we're on me now. So let's top this episode by saying it's probably not going to be the most positive. I have had a week.
I just won against Amazon. How fucking more positive do you want to get? Queen!
Yeah, but you won. All right, okay. Well, you can take that.
Okay. I will bring the positivity.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't even know how to talk about mine really. It's just I've been in a real slump this week, like a proper slump, and so people know that, I'm currently looking to move house. I'm going into all the buying side of things. I've obviously got lots going on behind the scenes with my own projects and things. And I just, this week has just been basically crashing into a wall. No, not even weird. Just shit. Just in terms of, because obviously positivity is one of my main things, and it's just not there this week. I've woken up tired and heavy most mornings. I've struggled to get work done. I tend to I don't know how common this is, but I tend to, under times of real stress, go into real disassociative episodes where I just go on autopilot and forget a few months later, that entire time period. And as someone who's kind of moved around a fair bit, that happens quite a lot. So I kind of feel like I'm in one of those where it's just, I'm just kind of going through the daily grind, trying to get things done, but also trying to do that with zero energy. And I think I'm turning the corner. I'm coming out of the worst of it, but it's just been a hard week. It's just been one of those where I've not wanted to come to the keyboard. I've got a lot to do. Things keep popping up, and then when you just about think you're on top of stuff, someone else pops up and goes, "Oh, have you done this yet?" And you're like, "No, I haven't." Also, my laptop's decided it's going to take off now, which is fine. Oh my god, that needs to sort itself out.
My computer was doing that all. Like I really need to upgrade my computer because it has been doing it all week as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I've still got a lot done. Like, I've made a lot of progress with The Thing. I went onto the Writer's Mindset podcast this week with Christina Adams, so that'll be coming out soon. I had a bunch of boot camps with my writing group, and we had a guest this week, Drew Starling, who was a former guest on the Great Writers Show, who came on and chatted with the guys for an hour and answered their questions, and that was really, really good. And it's really interesting because he was someone, when I first came into contact with him about a year ago, who was very, very early, like super early. He'd been doing short stories and things, and he's recently released his first novel, and it's going very, very well. So it was nice to kind of bring him on and share that experience with the others. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just, I don't really know what more to say on this week. It's just like moving house and everything else. Like, I haven't even got a house yet, but I might have, I'll tell you more about this afterwards, but I might have narrowed down like the area that I'm moving to, potentially, but it's just a lot.
It is a lot. Having moved last year, I can fully appreciate how much it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. What's something that you've enjoyed this week?
Okay, so
for 111 service.
You're a knob. So I enjoyed Hanny and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating, and it's given me a couple of realizations. So this is about two Bengali girls, so Asian rep. They're both bisexual, so bi rep, and it has. I'm trying to think about how I can word this. So the vast majority of books I read are about white, straight, middle-class people, because that's just what publishing is, especially, in young adult. Like, you get a tiny bit of representation sometimes in side characters and stuff. But I feel like I've been on this path for a little while now, looking for books that are more representative. So I've been reading a lot of books by people of color. I've been actively searching for like LGBT books. I talk to Jeff Adams sometimes, and he gives me book recommendations, or he started giving them to me a little while ago. And that was like, I obviously had read stuff prior to that, but it really pushed me down this road. And I didn't realize how much I needed to read books like this, because I don't know, I'm just like, feel like I'm having a moment with books like this. And I went to the Waterstones in London when I got very drunk that day, and they couldn't really give me any books that were young adult lesbian romances, like young adult lesbian contemporary or fantasy like romances. They had like two. And I was like, this is not good enough. And so I've been on a mission hunting for books. And if listeners have any recommendations, I am specifically looking for young adult, lesbian. It can be anything across the queer spectrum. If the characters or authors are people of color, even better. Doesn't have to be. Happy for white, lesbian, whatever. But basically looking for more books like this. And I think I have to write them. And that's a bit of a realization to me, because I'm like, why have I not been writing books like this anyway? And I don't know if it's some kind of unconscious bias because I've been brought up in a predominantly white society. I suspect it is, but I'm like, why is this not a thing that I have already been doing? I am queer. I am mixed race. Like, what? Why do I not write these books? Because obviously, I mean, to be fair, my protagonist is not white. But like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm having a moment and a realization about identity and how much I didn't realize that I needed to read books about people like me. I just thought I was reading books about people like me because young adult books with female protagonists are, you know, they're kick-ass and they're rebellious, and I thought that was enough for me. That's the realization. I thought that was enough, and it's not. I want books about people like me. And yeah, so that has been the thing that I've enjoyed. Also, just another recommendation. I haven't finished this, I'm reading this, but this is a book called Writing the Other, A Practical Approach. And I'm going to absolutely butcher the names, but Cynthia Ward, and I said that one first because that one's the easier name, Nissi Shaw. I hope I've said that right. But this is a book about how to write other characters with other, you know, diverse aspects and stuff. Very short, very interesting guide. So yeah, recommend that. But yeah, I'm destroying things. I'm having a moment, Dan.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? What have you enjoyed?
Well, that links quite nicely because I've been on the same revelation, and I'm really craving books about straight white men. I just like, my shelf is just full of non-straight white men books, and I just need to just really have been struggling. So we could probably swap and like do like a book swap.
Oh, you did a funny.
No,
you're funny today.
That could have gone either way, really. So my thing that I've enjoyed this week, I put two things down. So number one, our wonderful VA put together a Cinnamon Challenge video compilation of things. So all the people that got involved in the Cinnamon Challenge from the last Level Up Challenge is all piled together. If you've not seen it yet, it's on the Facebook, it's on the YouTube. I sound like my mum. It's on the Facebook. She's not Northern in any way. She's Southern. I don't know why I did freaking Yorkshire. I'm going to get people from...
Hysteria, Dan. Hysteria.
Hysteria, just, yeah. So... Oh, where was I? Oh yeah, so and on Patreon as well. But it was like, just a big shout out to the people that, you know, did the Cinnamon Challenge and, you know, had some fun with it. Like, I did it myself. It isn't nice, but yeah, that was fun. And then also the second thing is, so I started watching Raya and the Last Dragon a couple of weeks ago, and I started.
The Last Dragon. Raya. Raya, I think. I don't know. It's this thing where you like just can't pronounce names. This is.
I mean, I'm pronouncing it like it's pronounced in the movie, so that I presume is the correct pronunciation.
Also, Raya and the Last Dragon is fucking amazing.
Oh, it's wicked. But I say I started watching it a couple of weeks ago because basically my son watched it with me, and we got to kind of like the inciting incident, and when all this stuff happened, and it basically gave him nightmares for 6 days. So, like, warning to people with young children. It can fuck them up.
I should not
be laughing. I know, but
God, poor Bailey.
I know. It was one of those moments where, like, you're holding your kid and they're clearly upset by it, and I'm like, okay, is this a teachable moment or is this a retreatable moment? So like, you like, generally you look at your kid and you're like, I can't force them through this. Like, they're genuinely like struck with fear by now. So.
I just want to give him a cuddle.
Yeah, he had lots of those. So yeah, I started watching it then, but then I was like, I really want to know what happens. So I ended up finishing it this week, and yeah, it was really, really good. Typical, very, very clearly a heroine's journey, which is you know, really, really nice to see. But then also the thing that I marvel at every time when it comes to sort of CGI films is just how good the visuals are now. Like, you cannot fault them. And when it shows big scenes with, you know, a dragon swimming through the water, like, water must be the hardest thing to animate, unless I'm massively ignorant in terms of, like, obviously visualization and what you can do. But like, for me, water just seems like the hardest thing to simulate effectively to make it look real. And then you got films like, you know, Finding Nemo, Moana, Raya, where the water just looks like real actual water. And it's just one of those where I watch it and I'm watching like liquid dynamics probably more than I'm watching, you know, the dragon and the action. But like, it was a really, really good film, and it was colorful, and it was, you know, Disney, and it was good, and it had a message. And also, I mean, this is tangential and probably something that we can dive deeper into at another time, but it really sort of like inspired me with some of the stuff that I potentially want to work on in the future. So, because it's kind of, there's like a post-apocalyptic element to it, like in the way that it's kind of portrayed at certain points. So yeah, that was the thing that I enjoyed this week. Weekly confessional.
You want to write post-apoc?
No, that's not where I'm going with that. But I'm just saying that, like,
I am going to pick your brains about that afterwards.
Okay. Weekly confessional. Sacha will work on launch stuff.
Oh my God, that is all I have been doing. Can I just say, I've done so much. I'm so proud of myself. And also, I am still so far behind. Like, I just can't seem to
I don't know that
get it all
in
done.
front is achievable for you. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that's really your area of expertise or where you thrive.
Oh my God, stop. You're like killing me this week. Wow. I feel so called out.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I learned a new lesson this week. Can I share my lesson?
No.
I'm going to share my lesson. So, oh, I think we're both delirious.
Come on then, teach.
Okay, so Eskimos, they have like 17 meanings for the word snow. They can't just listen to us be delirious. Listen, Eskimos have 17 words for snow, okay? The thing that I learned.
I can't. Oh my God, I'm actually crying.
The thing that I learned is that I have 17 meanings for the word busy. And that was the thing I learned. What was the confessional?
Was that it? You've learned that you have many ways to say busy.
Okay, so there is a very short explanation. Communication issues. Some people take, when I say I'm busy, some people take it as a negative, whereas I find busy to be a positive, but also like there are differing shades of busy.
Yes.
So there are me like busy, like the reason I'm saying this is because I think I have made people think that I don't have time for them, and that's not at all the case. And I am sorry to people who feel that way. So what I have learned is that other people have definitions of words that don't necessarily match my definitions of words, right? And as self-published business owners who work for ourselves, we are naturally busier in terms of pressure and workload than many people who have day jobs. And so when we can use that word busy, especially if you have achiever in your top 10, you are likely to use that word more often. And therefore it brings about a more negative connotation. But for me, there's like busy. I am always going to be busy. There is never a time when I'm not going to be busy, because if I'm not busy, I'm doing something wrong in my business, right? Because we should always, but busy can mean busy producing. It could mean, there's a difference between being busy day to day, being busy for a launch, and being busy trying not to let Amazon take your entire company down, right? So the last 48 hours, for example, I pretty much didn't speak to anyone because I was trying to just get that fucking thing done. But, you know, for the most of the time, yes, I'm always busy, but that doesn't mean I don't have time for people. And so, yeah, the lesson is just about people's definitions, because I see busy in different shades and other people don't. And that was the comparison for me, was like, well, Eskimos see snow differently, you know, whereas British people or people in other, you know, countries where snow is not so off, like not so regular, we just see it as snow. It's all just snow. So for lots of people, busy is just busy, but it's not the case. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting.
I had a conversation with someone a couple of months back where it was similar, and they were going about how busy they were, and so I found myself automatically default into like suggestions because I'm a fixer, and their whole thing, like they came back and went, oh no, I don't mean it in a negative way, like I really enjoy what I do, I'm just doing a lot and that's okay with me, it's just I am physically busy. Whereas for someone like me, I tend to, because of that negative connotation with busy, I tend to veer back, like from, if someone's like, how are you, I really hate saying, oh, I'm really busy. So I switch that and just try and say like, I'm really productive right now, because for me that feels more like a word in motion, as opposed to, for me, busy feels like, and again, it's that different definition, but for me, busy feels like oh, things are just coming at me and I'm like slowly retreating. Whereas productive feels like I'm doing lots of things, but they're things that I've chosen and they're moving forward. But again, it's all semantics, but I think it's a good point to be aware of it. So you did your launch stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
In summary.
So
wow, this episode is a clusterfuck.
It's just a normal episode. Dan will finish mini project and write 20k of ghostwriting words. So this is the second week in a row that I failed because I did.
Shut up.
I did my mini project. That's fine, but I did not. I did about 7k of ghostwriting words so far. So take that how you will. Digest. We'll see what happens in the Patreon group.
So I think when we get together and do this joint forfeit, you have to start like 3 shots down. That would be my
Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. We'll ask patrons. Oh, boo.
Yeah. It's been a week.
It's been a week. It does happen.
Patreon. So we had no new patrons this week, but for anyone who wants to support the show and get early access to all episodes, listen to my laptop taking off again, and get involved in our monthly live Q&As, then head on over to patreon.com/nextlevelauthors. Updates and promotions. Sacha, what's coming out in very, very soon?
8 Steps to Side Characters, the textbook and workbook. So the full title is 8 Steps to Side Characters, How to Craft Supporting Roles with Intention, Purpose and Power. And yeah, it's coming out. There's going to be some Instagram lives. There's going to be a Facebook live. There's going to be, there's a pre-order like sneak peek bonus, and then you'll be entered into a giveaway. You can get that by submitting your pre-order proof to sashablack.co.uk/side pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
You should probably get a copy. It's awesome.
I have read it. I can confirm this.
Thank you very much.
And then for me, if anyone wants to write with me, I do run a weekly writing group called Wilcox Writers, and you can find out about that at danielwilcox.com/community. But we meet 4 times a week to write, get the words in. It's a fantastic group. We have a private Slack channel, a whole community vibe, and I also throw in like extras with live Q&As with other guests, including Sacha, who came on last month, the month before. Time is weird. But yeah, find that at danielwilcox.com/community. Level ups. So I'm going to go over to my buddy David Corquette, whose level up was, I feel like I leveled up today with my submission to Sacha Black's Rebel Diaries anthology. Aww. I think we saw quite a few of those as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I am really excited to read them. I have let everybody know now who submitted that I will be reading in August. I just do not have the capacity to do it this month. So yeah, I will be reading in August, and I will get back to everybody with decisions by the end of September.
Beautiful. And on that vibe of leveling up, the Level Up Challenge will be posted on the Facebook group and the Patreon today. So all the announcements of what me and Sacha will be doing, what the prizes are, and everything you have to do to get involved in this quarter's Level Up Challenge will be on the group. So go check that out. Last week, comments.
Yep.
Episode 67. What is your relationship with no?
Whoops, sorry about that. So Ember May, that's a cool name, said, I am not good at saying no. I get all excited about new ideas and want to research them immediately. This year, though, my word for the year was focus. And that meant saying no to a lot of stuff, including posting regularly on social channels that were draining my energy. As a result, I've written 3 books. Holy fuck! A prequel, and I'm about a third of the way into another book. So the plan is to keep my head down and keep going.
Hell yes. I love that.
Well, that's fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
CJ Dainton said, can I slide in another option here? How about a not yet or a not right now? So that is actually my technique at the moment for a lot of things, is to say not yet, not right now. So like when people ask me to do things and I don't have time, I'm like, well, come back again in 6 months and I might have time then.
Mm-hmm.
And then Emily Han says, personally, I've never had a problem with saying no. Hell yeah, which could be why I only have 2 friends. Oh.
Hey,
I love
quality,
that.
Quality, not quantity.
Yes, exactly.
I wish I had 2 friends.
You don't even have 1.
I know. It's the crux of it. I've got some freak who goes on about different types of snow. Oh no, we've lost it again.
I wish I hadn't told that story.
It was just so like out out of the blue? Just like tangential.
progress.
Eskimos. All right, cool.
Listen,
Incans.
you should know that shit is random with me. My brain has been like this all week. I've been doing thinky things this week and I've had lots of thoughts, and
Good.
so I'm
Good.
like, yeah, let's just move on.
Are we comments done?
Yeah, buddy. There's only 3 in the Facebook group. I don't know if I should be looking. Did we have any? I don't think we had any in Patreon, did we? I didn't see any come through this week.
Potentially. Moving on. So,
Yeah.
question of the week. Okay, so you have a book coming out in 13 days. All around.
Shit, is it 13 days?
13 days. All around side characters, and obviously building up like a solid cast that helps support your message as an author. So my question to you is, how do you build a strong cast of supporting characters?
You could have given me a warning of this.
No.
Okay, so I think the first thing to understand is the different types of side characters. And the thing is, a lot of people, when they think about side characters, think about archetypes. And whilst archetypes are useful in talking about story and explaining like a story arc, I don't think they help writers to create a set of characters, because the common problems are, well, how do I stop a side character from taking over? How do I know, how much depth to put, how many characters, how do I manage lots of characters? And the thing is, I think when you understand the different, like my version of what side characters are, I think that helps people eradicate all of those problems. So
Can you give an example of an archetype just for people who might not know?
Yeah, so an archetype would be like your Gandalf, okay, in Lord of the Rings, who is a mentor. That's the archetype, or guide. I don't know, some other classics call them guides, some call them mentors. Another one would be an ally. So Ron and Hermione in Harry Potter are allies. They are friends of the main character. So I say there are 3 types of side character: cameo, minor, and major. And I'm going to really try and succinctly say this, because there are some other things you need to do. But a cameo is very brief and fleeting. Think of the woman in the red dress from The Matrix, where she like comes in and she's there, and then literally she doesn't even have anything to say. You just remember she was a really hot, curvy girl with blonde hair. That's all you remember. And that's the point. That's a cameo. They might not have lines. They might have lines, but it'll only be 1 or 2. You're not supposed to remember them. And they usually have labels. So like girl with a teddy, woman in the red dress, for example. They're so, unimportant that they have these labels. Stan Lee used to cameo in a lot of the Marvel films. That's another example. In terms of story, they have no impact on the protagonist, no impact really on the story. They are there to do a small thing and then they fuck off again. And so you can have a cast of hundreds of these, because you don't need any depth. They can all be caricatures and identifiable by their labels. Then you have minor characters. Minor characters are there more frequently. So they might be, for example, a receptionist or like a barman that talks to the protagonist a few times. Mr. Filch in Harry Potter with the cat is another example of a minor character, because he's there quite a few times across the series, but he doesn't affect the story. He doesn't affect the protagonist. You could remove Mr. Filch and his cat and Harry Potter would still be Harry Potter. So they have transactional exchanges. They might be a bit of a caricature, and in some respects Mr. Filch is. This is the janitor, for anybody who's forgotten who Mr. Filch was. But it's transactional exchanges as opposed to anything meaningful. They're not going to have their own character arc. They're not going to have their own subplots, really. And so when you understand those 2, you understand that actually the pressure is not there for you to create lots of depth around these characters. You actually don't have to do it. You can create very caricaturized characters, have something very, memorable about them, and that's about it. But then you come to major side characters. Major side characters have a character arc. They have a subplot. They should represent the theme in your book. They should have an influence on the protagonist, an influence on the outcome. So, and then they have probably backstory. They're going to have all of these things. These are the only characters that really have to have the level of depth that a lot of writers worry about. And so these are going to be like your Ron and Hermione's. They're going to be the ghosts in A Christmas Carol are another example of like major side characters. In Bridget Jones, it would be Mr. Darcy and what was Daniel Cleaver, right? They are main characters. They all have backstories and arcs of themselves in and of themselves. So I think understanding that structure of side characters is super important, because you understand who actually needs to have the depth, and therefore it becomes easier to manage the other characters because you don't have the pressure of, creating all that level of depth. In terms of some other quick tips, because I could talk about this forever.
I picked this question because I'm quite tired and I wanted you to talk.
Oh, okay, cool, fine. So I'm going to talk about the illusion of arcs, and I'm going to talk about scene power, and I will probably leave it there. Otherwise, I will just continue talking until I've talked the whole book.
For people watching on YouTube, look how energized Sacha's just become.
Oh, am I really? That's so funny. I didn't realize how much I love side characters. They're actually my favorite. I prefer them to the protagonist because they're so much fun. I was having this conversation actually with somebody about the fact that you don't have any restrictions with side characters, whereas protagonists have to follow particular arcs. They are constrained by having to perform in a certain way, whereas you don't have that with side characters, which is why they're so fun. Okay, so scene power. A lot of people ask how you prevent your side characters from taking over in a scene. And I love this analogy that I came up with. So if your story is like, let's say you're going to a dinner. Okay, you're going to a friend's dinner, or you're going to an anonymous dinner. Let's say it's an anonymous dinner. You're going to this dinner party. You walk into the room. As humans, we naturally know where the locus of power is in that room. We will be drawn to where that power is. Now, if you take the host of a dinner party as the protagonist, and you take all of the guests as side characters, those guests might be telling jokes when you walk in. They might be telling anecdotes or asking poignant questions of the host/protagonist, right? All things that these side characters do. And just because they have that moment of, the attention being on them, does not make them the host. Why? Because the only person driving that meal is the host/protagonist, because they are the ones who decide when we have dinner, when they clear the plates away, if dessert is going to be served, if they're going to give coffee. Well, yeah, I know, right? But like, if you think about it in story terms, in a scene, it's the same, right? So the protagonist needs to be the one making the decisions, driving, making those, decisions on direction. Yes, the other characters can have their moments. They can be divas. They can tell jokes. They can ask questions, but they are never going to be the ones driving the action. And I think when you think about it in terms of that dinner table, it really helps. Now, in the book, I took a scene from near the climax of the end of my first book, and I rewrote it so that the scene power was off. And it is the most uncomfortable, awkward thing to read ever. It's so painful. I actually give a warning in the book to say, this is really painful to read, because you don't know who the protagonist is anymore. It's very hard to understand who is making the decisions, where the ringleader is in the scene. And it's on purpose to show people what happens when you don't have the locus of power in the right place. And so I then rewrite that scene, showing where the problems are and fixing them, and showing the final published scene so you can see how different it reads. And it's one of the things that I like the most in the book, because I think it's such a powerful example of how scene power can be done wrong, and why it's so important to understand the concept of scene power, and how much in knowing and understanding what scene power is, it gives you, the author, the power to control your characters back. Because I think we lose a lot of power sometimes because, you know, these characters take over and you don't know what you don't know. But when you understand scene power, it puts the empowerment back in your hands as the author to control how a scene is structured and where the locus of power lies. I don't know. I know I said I was going to talk about character arcs as well, but like maybe I've talked too much already. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of directions you can go with it. Obviously, you've written an entire book on it that wouldn't die. Like,
yeah, literally, it's like 73,000 fucking words. So,
yeah, it's huge. And I've read it, and you know, part of the reason for this question is obviously like the book's coming out soon, but part of it is also that because I was working on the book a couple of months ago, I can't remember when it was, and I was speaking to you about some of this, and I had a real problem with the fact that I got the protagonist, but the actual role of the protagonist was a really, really lonely role. They were very, very isolated, and it was making the story very difficult to write. And just from one of the conversations with yourself, I realized that I hadn't actually created solid supporting side characters that made it easier to write that book. And in that scenario, I mean, if you imagine James Bond, he's a lone wolf. He does like things by himself. He's very like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, be James Bond and be badass. But even then, he has people that do support him from the sidelines and provide him the things that he needs, even though he does the action himself. And it was that realization that really kind of unlocked it. And in reading the book, I like the first part that you said about sort of the restructure of how you look at side characters. Because one thing that I really, really struggled with when I was sort of earlier in my writing was this idea that like I'd created a character and then I really resented the fact that they wouldn't appear for the rest of the book. And obviously, like then now I know that's like a cameo character. But it for some reason it really irked me because as I'm creating my characters, I'd have my protagonist, I'd have my antagonist, I'd create sort of a cast of characters around them. And then as I'm writing, other characters would pop into my head and I'd be like, oh, but shouldn't they have more? Because, you know, they're in the book, they need to be in there for a purpose. But like you say, there is like cameos serve a purpose in a way in terms of just like allowing the story to move forward or the action to move forward, but they don't need to be memorable. And just kind of that shift of how you look at the other characters has just kind of it's done a lot for me. So it's really, really useful, that book. I'm genuinely not just saying that because, you know, we're like bezies and shit.
I asked a lot of questions and I asked my audience what they struggled with in terms of side characters, and I really tried very hard to shape the book around that. Like, it might not be, I also don't like to patronize people, so I haven't gone this question and this is the answer, you know, but I have tried to create content that will empower writers to like take control back, and giving them different frameworks from which to understand side characters and different analogies to understand like the purpose, the role of side character. Like I'm actually really proud of the book now. Like, I've come through the doubt now and I'm like, actually, you know what, it's a really fucking good book. And I'm proud of it. So yeah.
Nice. Boom. So how are we leveling up our business this week?
Okay, well, so I'm gonna take into account that my son is going to be off school Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And my wife is also off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, and also I'm going to be, so this is next week, isn't it? So I am going to be all out of whack next week because not only is my son on school holidays, I'm also doing a conference on America time. So I'm going to be up late. And still have to be up early because obviously I'm in launch. So the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start Becca-con conference, and I'm really going to give it everything. So I'm going to try and prepare meals. Yeah. Nice. I'm going to try and prepare meals before it starts. So I think it starts at 3 p.m. on the Thursday, Friday, and 4 p.m. on Saturday, Sunday. And try and make sure that my family have everything they need so that I don't necessarily get interrupted. And I'm going to try and organize so that I can do bedtimes and stuff in the breaks and bits so that everyone's routine is going to be a bit out of whack. But it's for me, like, I'm really taking this conference for me. Like, I'm really excited to do that. So I will have done, actually, I think I'll only have done one day by the time we record next. But anyway, I would have started that. I am going to continue launch stuff. I would really like to have. What would I have liked to have done? I want to get as close to done as possible by next week. But okay, so I'm going to be specific. I'm going to have written my launch blog. I've done my last chance email and that's scheduled, but I'm going to do one other email. I better write this down so I don't forget. And then I'm going to have at least, that's probably the same thing. So I'm going to have scripted my launch blog and post. I'm going to have scripted my launch blog and post, yeah. And I'm going to have finished my article and I'm going to have written a street team email. I'm going to pull back and say I'm going to do launch stuff. Because I'm going to do launch stuff. That is in writing. I'm going to do launch stuff. I'm going to do Becca-con. I'm going to start Becca-con. I'm going to try and do all the... Oh, God, what is wrong with me this week? Can I start again, please?
No.
I'm going to organise.
Give me 5 words for snow and then you can start again.
I'm going to make sure my family have everything they need so that I can do Becca-con. I'm going to start Becca-con and I'm going to continue to work on launch stuff Monday, Tuesday. That's my 3.
I am going to... Well, I'm
so sorry everyone had to listen to me do that.
At the start of every episode before we start recording, we're like, do we have everything we need?
I know.
And the answer is always no.
I know.
So I've put, I'm going to write so I can rest, which basically I'm in the same boat as you. I've got my son comes off of school on Thursday. And then I've got him for 2.5 weeks. So my aim has been to try and slam words so I can take those 2 weeks off, pretty much, bar odd things here and there. So I'm not going to quantify because it seems to not be working at the minute. But what I am going to do is slam words.
Yeah, the quantifying stuff is not really working for me as well because everything is like so up and down.
Well, I think for me as well, the fact that we record this on a Friday morning, whereas every time I do this, I'm thinking it's Monday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Like for some reason in my head, I'm like an entire week, and then I'm like, but it's not.
It's not because we get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. That's it. So we have 4 days to do whatever. That's what fucks me as well. I completely agree. For
kiddo time. There we go. Cool. Awesome. And to you guys, the question is, how do you build a strong cast of supporting characters? And we will see you, as always, next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writer Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
next level
authors.
I'm really sad that you've got next week's episode.
Why?
And it's going to mean nothing to you because you don't remember episode numbers.
Is it 69? Wait! You filthy slut.
60% of the time, every time.